podcast, the truth unveiled, exploring the depths beyond what is retail. Conspiracies, esoteric knowledge so enthralling. Open up your mind, let's dive into the sprawling. Oh yeah. Pray, pull awaken, question what you know. Peeling back the layers, let your curiosity grow. Uncover hidden realities, break the mold. Come take the journey, let your mind unfold.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Grey Pilled Podcast. I am your host, Jules, here with my co-host, Adrian West, for another episode of Elohim Etymology. Adrian, how we doing, brother?
We are doing fantastic. What's happening, people of the world? Welcome back.
Yeah, guys, here doing a part 3 on Marduk. Some people know him as Bel, storm god, Amar Utu, the solar calf, Asar Luhi, Namshub, Azazel, Mars. Lots of names. We've actually done 2 prior episodes on this deity. So if you haven't, go and check out part 1 and 2 on Marduk. We've also done an episode on Anu, one on Enlil or El, and then 4 on Enki. That was quite a ride right there. Ea, Enki, Poseidon, Ptah, many names for him as well. But Adrian, what you been up to lately, brother? We haven't done one of these. I think it's been a couple months.
Yeah,
it's been a couple months.
I feel like Marduk part 2 was back in the fall. I was still traveling around filming concerts at that time. Then the holidays hit, just helping some family through some transition times, and then New Year's hit. Had another gig out of town, and here we are. Almost 3 weeks into January 2025, and so much has happened out there in the real world, but the train keeps rolling.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't think I've seen you since the new year has started. So, time to get back into it. You said you're freed up, I think, the rest of this month, maybe. So maybe we can knock a few of these out.
I'd love to. A lot of catching up to do, a lot of knowledge to research ourselves and make light of, make sense of, and share it with the world.
Absolutely. Guys, if you haven't yet, you go get Adrian's book, Pantheon 1, Golden Veins, on Amazon. How's the second one coming along?
We're in like the second round of editing as we speak. So I feel confident about it. I'm not going to give a release date yet, but should be around summertime.
Awesome. We'll be looking out for that. And of course, I'll be shilling your book as we go. All right. Yeah, guys. So I think last time we may have left off, and I've talked about Marduk quite a lot. Exposing him as basically being the adversary of the Anunnaki. You know, he's always the one stirring up trouble. And I think we talked about last time. We also talked about him in Egypt, his kids Osiris and Set. And you, I think, mentioned on our last episode, which was on Ningishzidda, aka Thoth, aka Hermes, that Osiris may have been a son of Thoth.
Indeed. We dive into that in the book series Pantheon, but that is a little Easter egg that, if it's true, is a great unknown mystery that kind of shakes up the foundation of family dynamics in these ancient times. But yeah, I can expand upon that whenever we get into it.
Awesome. Yeah, and it kind of makes sense, like Set coming from Marduk's seed, being that Marduk killed his brother, as did Set murder his brother as well. And I think Enki calls it the curse of Cain that's been passed down.
Right.
So, guys, if you have not seen part 1 and 2, Marduk, his Babylonian name, he is the eldest son of Enki, Ea, the water god. In Sumeria, known as Merodach or Amar Utu, the solar calf, you'll see that word Utu associated a lot with the sun. We have Utu Shamash, his cousin being the sun god of his time. Going into Assyria and Akkadia, he's known as Asar Luhi. We know Asar is the original name for Osiris, stemming from the dog star, right? Meaning scorcher, correct? I think you had pointed that out last time.
Yes.
Yeah. The solar calf. And then I have it right here, as well as Namshub, the god of incantations. It's funny, there's actually a metal band or like a noisecore band called Namshub of Enki. I mean, there's also a band called Marduk. So and then it's probably not the probably a little dark for some people. I don't know. I used to listen to a lot of metal back in the day, so it's weird learning about these deities and then realizing like, oh, a lot of the music I used to listen to, if not, I don't know if they're giving praise to these deities or just paying them recognition or what. I don't know if you've seen that. I know you found some company whose name was literally Enki.
Yes. I was in London in 2022 doing a concert, and these like cases, these guitar cases had the Enki logo on them. And I was like, what's going on here?
Caught your eye.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Came back to the States, looked them up online, and it's EnkiUSA.com. And they make guitar cases, sweet hats, sweet T-shirts, sweet hoodies. You should check them out.
Yeah, I saw you had a T-shirt last time. I think you wore it on the show. And I think hopefully we could do another one of these next week, guys. We'll be probably finishing up on Ningishzidda. We'll probably do a few parts on that. But I did want to start soon on the sons of Enlil, the sons of El. Maybe start with Ninurta or Ishkur, because I know we've talked about Nannar-Sin, the father of Ishtar, the moon god. So, yeah, Bel, a title signifying lord or master applied to various gods in the Mesopotamian region of Akkad, Assyria, and Babylonia. The feminine form is Belit, meaning lady or mistress. In Akkadian, Bel is represented in Greek as Belos, and in Latin as Belus. Belit appears in Greek as a form of Beltis. Heard that before. Linguistically, Bel is an East Semitic form cognate with the Northwest Semitic Baal, with the same meaning. And I was on Nephilim Death Squad this past Monday, and we actually got into that a little bit. Also, months ago, probably even half a year ago, I did a deep dive into the various Baals, Baal Hadad, Baal Zephon, Baal Haman, and just the Lord, right? Bel was especially used for the Babylonian god Marduk. In Assyrian and Neo-Babylonian personal names or mentioned in inscriptions in a Mesopotamian context. Similarly, Belit mostly refers to Marduk's spouse, Sarpanit. Marduk's mother, the Sumerian goddess, often referred to in the Sumerian language as Ninhursag, Damkina, and Ninmah. Well, we know how Wikipedia gets with some of these names, right? They kind of apply all these names to one deity when we know it's probably referring to a few, right?
Typically, or vice versa, they'll throw in, it'll be one core root god or goddess, and then over the course of thousands of years, they've expanded to like 2 or 3 mythological people.
Yeah, well, we know that Ninhursag, I mean, that would be the sister of Enki and Enlil. Ninmah being the same person as Ninhursag. Damkina, however, being the spouse of Enki and the actual mother of Marduk. Often known as Belit Eli, Lady of the Gods in Akkadian. Other gods called Lord were sometimes identified totally or in part with Bel Marduk, the god Malek Bel of Palmyra. And we see that with Malek Taus, that's referred to as the peacock angel, which I would interpret as a fallen angel. Kind of relating to Enki, it carries the same sigil. I think we probably talked about that on Enki Part 3. Attested as a messenger of Bel, but existing as a deity separate to Bel Marduk. Huh. So maybe one of his many children. Similarly, Zeus Belus, mentioned by St. Chuni, I'm going to butcher that, guys. You could probably read that better than me. As born to Kronos El in Perea, is unlikely to be Marduk. Right. Well, we know that Kronos or El is lined up directly with Enlil. We've talked about this as well. Early translators of Akkadian believe that the ideogram for the god called Enlil in Sumerian was to be read as Bel in Akkadian. So there are some contradictions when you look at Wikipedia. However, I just mentioned we do relate to Enlil as El, so you just add a B to that, and there you get your Bel. But Bel is used in referring to Enlil in older translations and discussions. And I mean, Enlil was the first lord of the Anunnaki, right? When they first fell to Earth.
Yes, he was the first supreme lord of the earth.
Some of them, oh wow, all these monsters right here. I actually talked about some of these on Monday as well. The howling wolf, the Uzumgalu, the lion-headed serpents, all these different, what you would call, I mean, if they're physical, they would probably be referred to as cryptids or something. And this gets into Hadad and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we won't stray too far from Marduk. When we do start with the son of Enlil, maybe start with Ishkur. I believe he's the oldest.
I believe it's Ninurta.
Ishkur's the youngest?
I'm almost positive Ninurta is the oldest, and then it's Ninar Ishkur.
We do know that when you get into Greek mythologies and the Roman mythologies and stuff, they look at the sons of his sons as also sons of Enlil, right?
And that's my theory for the differences between the Titans and the Olympians in the Greek pantheon.
I think you had brought that up before.
Yeah, well, they're both mythological gods, but the Titans are almost like the older, larger, whether that's metaphoric or literal. They're somehow more supreme, and they have been around longer. And then the Olympians are like their offspring rulers. So I believe that the Titans were like that first line of Ninhursag, Anu, Enlil, Enki. And then maybe some from the line one level below them, and the Olympians were kind of a mix between their offspring and everyone that fell or was born after that.
Right. Well, we know that they tie like the youngest generation of the Anunnaki in with the Ajiji. And it's funny that you would probably consider like Ningishzidda, Ishkur, Ninurta, Nanarsin, all as like watcher angels, along with Enki and them. And then Marduk coming in as an Ajiji, it's like he should be held in higher regards almost with his cousins and his siblings. But since he was stationed on Mars for so long, like him and Shamash, who we've kind of interpreted as Shamsiel from the Book of Enoch, the teacher of the signs of the sun, they kind of fell under that with the rest of the youngest generation. Also, in Egyptian, he's known as Amun-Ra, the sun god of fertility and creation, as well in the Canaanite pantheon as Baal-zebul. And like I said, I did a deep dive on the many forms of Baal, guys, back think I said it was half a year ago. Me and Oddfellows did one. Shout out Oddfellows. I miss you, Cody. Hope you're okay. Which translates to Beelzebub, Lord of the High Place. And that could be attributed to many different deities. Because I think we left off last time. Marduk married Sarpanit, ruled in Egypt. He watched his sons murder each other. And then was exiled, went to Babylon. And they had Nabu, his next son, also known in the Bible and Isaiah, known as Nebo. And that's kind of like his right-hand man for, it seems like, the rest of this story. And they build the Tower of Babel, or it's built in honor of him. And people have interpreted that to be symbolic, maybe, trying to reach a higher consciousness through any means, right? Like the worship of these lesser deities, because it is interpreted in the scripture that they built this to like be one with the gods, right? To like as a stairway to heaven in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we may have left off with that. We talked about his envy for his youngest brother Tammuz, Dumuzi, and being implicated in the death of him as well. So after Ishtar basically finds out, basically he is exiled. It says to the land of no return, where the horned beast roam. What land do you think they're talking about?
I would say some desolate area in the underworld, like potentially Africa.
You think it'd be Africa? I know it was saying that this is where Cain and his bloodline were exiled to back during that whole debacle.
Okay, well then in this case, now we're talking about the Americas.
Really? Oh, we did talk about that. And maybe the mark of Cain being tied to the Native Americans not being able to grow facial hair, you had mentioned?
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
A genetic modification mark.
Yeah, and you have Ninurta mainly, which I'm pretty sure throughout this story, him and Marduk or their tribes are warring the most, right? It's like the clash of the cousins.
Exactly.
Ninurta saying, of Marduk, an evil serpent, earth must be rid. That's weird. That's the first time I've really seen Marduk referred to as a serpent. Because you see that with his father, with his brother, they carry that serpent symbolism.
Big time.
The
Absolutely.
Eagles, yeah, the eagle symbolism being attributed to the opposite side. The sky gods and the gods of the mountains and whatnot. And I've talked about many times how the eagle very well may be like symbolism for the phoenix. Because if you look into the ancient mysteries, you do see that a lot in Freemasonry and other mystery schools. So I find that pretty interesting. I didn't know if you knew if it talks about phoenixes in any of these other texts.
I have not seen it a ton. I'm wondering when it first came to be a term or symbol or part of ancient stories.
Yeah, well, Enki is still trying to advocate at this moment. He's still trying to advocate for Marduk's succession to his kingship, right? Mm-hmm. And it says that everyone was opposed but Gibel and Ningal, who we don't really see too much in this story, right? Yeah, to the north, the place of artificed mounts, Marduk then retreated. Yeah, he's being chased around in his storm. Well, Ninurta's chasing him in his Stormbird, right? Which could very well be like a fighter pilot ship. And we've talked about this before. And not everybody looks at it the same way. I've mentioned there's many ways to interpret this stuff. Anu comes down this next time, and this is after the death of Dumuzi, and everyone's still mourning him, and Anu still demands to see Marduk for some reason. Like, he still wants to forgive him, I think. So you said that this would place Marduk, if not in Africa, then in the Americas?
Yes, that is my interpretation, especially if it's the same place that Cain was banished to.
Yeah.
So let's rewind. Was he banished there as the result of the death of Dumuzi?
Yes, he was.
And then Anu comes down on select occasions. So on this one, I'm assuming it's to evaluate the situation, see where tensions are, see how the rulers are managing the affairs of their civilizations, and figure out what to do with this whole constant fighting and violence between the clans, whether it's Ninurta versus Marduk or Inanna versus Marduk or the whole 9 yards. It's Anu's the one who kind of, since he's removed from the situation, he's not always on Earth in the middle of the chaos. He kind of has a more neutral, balanced, logical approach to solutions and less emotions. So they seem to listen to him.
Yeah. It says that even Inanna let slow death by alive being buried be Marduk's sentence. This is where they seal him in his tomb. So I guess this is around the time where he is exiled. I'm going to read a little bit from Inky and the World Order Lost Book. Away from the sun and light, without food or water, Marduk within the Eker alive was entombed. Now, the Eker, is that the Great Pyramid?
I know it stands for temple. Are you reading the Lost Book?
Yeah, well, I have some notes here. I'm pretty sure he's freed from this place. So morning, let Marduk live in exile. So this is right before he's exiled, basically. He is entombed, imprisoned in this Eker. And this is the story of Azazel as well. They put Azazel inside of the earth for committing all these sins. Because this is also after he has come down to earth and he has wed, an earth woman, that being Sarpanet. I don't know. It seems like he did this to defy the creator, knowing that, he one day would lose his wife. And it talks about that as well. But it seems like she also lived for longer than many humans were able to live. This all appears around the same time in the story. He's in prison, and then he's exiled, and then Anu comes down, and he basically is like, okay, well, I lost my wife. It's just my son that I've lost all my children. And this is around the time, I think, where he starts to try and take back kingship. Because we do know that towards the end of the Old Testament, I don't want to spoil your second book, right? Because I know you do dive into more of that throughout your whole 1 through 6 that you're writing is it takes place within the Old Testament, right?
It does indeed, mostly Genesis and Exodus.
Okay.
It's just a reinterpretation and deep dive on biblical stories, so it's not like people don't know what happens. We just give a little more clarification into certain terms and translations and offer insights and theories to how it could make more sense than what they teach us at Vacation Bible School, respectfully.
Right. So yeah, basically the account of Anu's journey to the lands beyond the oceans. This would be the Americas, right?
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to tell you, Eker does mean pyramid.
Okay, so this was when he was imprisoned inside of the pyramid. Morning, ass butt. Morning, Stacks. What's up, guys? Now, this is the account of Anu's journey to the lands beyond the oceans. I finally got to where I think this is exactly where we had basically left off. Right after the death of his youngest brother, they imprison him, and then they want him to die. Like they're basically saying, like, let him die. He needs to be sentenced to death. And Enki and Anu, like, basically fight for him to be exiled. Do you know why they feel this compassion towards him?
Well, like they say, it's all in the family, right? So Enki is Anu's genius son. Marduk is Enki's eldest son, who is intentionally born off-world to retain this aura of royalty. So there's a little bit of sentimentality there. And because it hasn't all hit the fan yet, there hasn't been a civilization wiping out nuclear destruction. It's kind of like, let's just give Marduk another slap on the wrist. He's one of us. He should rule. Hopefully he's learned from his mistakes. He should rule some land. He's one of the oldest. And that's like the surface level beginning of why I think they were, what's the phrase? Reciprocal towards the idea of letting him back in the game and not being banished into exile forever and ever.
Now, he has one son left. This is Nabu, everybody, and we will be doing an episode on him as well. So Nabu, Jewish, Babylonian, Aramaic, Nebo. Like I had mentioned, Nebo in the Bible is the Babylonian patron god of literacy and rational arts, scribes, and wisdom. He is associated with the classical planet Mercury and Babylonian astronomy. That's interesting right there. The Akkadian Nabu means announcer or authorized person, derived from the Semitic root. It is cognate with classical Syriac. I cannot pronounce Nabiya, all meaning prophet. And we do know that he was the head of all these cults of Marduk, all these, they all had their own worshipers, right? That's what I've been trying to tell people when people say, like, Satan worshipers. There's really many different Satans, and it just really applies to these different deities. And they use these signs and symbols to show who they are worshiping. Nabu was worshipped in Babylon's sister city, Borsippa, which I think is at Sippar.
They might be different, but we should look into it.
We should look into that. We should do that episode maybe soon. From where his statue was taken to Babylon each new year so that he could pay his respects to his father. Nabu's symbols included a stylus resting on a tablet as well as a simple wedge shape. King Nabonidus, whose name references Nabu, had a royal scepter topped with Nabu's wedge. Clay tablets with a special calligraphic skill were used as offerings at Nabu's temple. His wife was the Akkadian goddess Tashmet. And I've mentioned before that he was known as Tashmetet, which means, like, it's similar, I think, to like an anointed one maybe. Nabu was the patron god of scribes, literacy, and wisdom. Also the inventor of writing, a divine scribe, the patron god of the rational arts, and a god of vegetation. So many attributes related to Nabu. Nabu inscribed the fates assigned to men and was equated with the scribe god in Ninurta. Okay, see.
Well, everything
there's where the overlap happens. Right?
That's the Wikipedia overlap. Yeah.
Always. Yeah. So
yeah.
Just a little introduction to him, guys, because we will be talking about him a little bit on this episode.
But you could also make the argument he either inherited those skills genetically from his uncle, Zeta Thoth, or was influenced or inspired by him, because Zeta was the original scribe god, or Thoth, the keeper of records and everything.
We know that's where the word thought comes from, right?
Exactly.
And
Borsippa is different than Sippar. Borsippa is 15 kilometers south of Babylon. Sippar is 50 kilometers north.
Oh, that's crazy how you know where all this is. So yeah, all right. I found where Anu basically comes back to Earth, and I think this is the last time that he comes down there.
Well, is this before the Second Pyramid War?
I believe this is after.
Then yeah, we're close. What does it say? What shar you're in?
It does not say what shar I'm in. I haven't really been keeping up with that. I know you have like a shar graph that you were using.
It's either the last time he came to Earth or the second to last time, because we're talking about 3800 BC.
Yeah.
And so if he came back, it would have been about 200 years before the birth of Yeshua, which could signify symbolically like the return of Nibiru, the return of Anu, ushering in the age of the Messiah. But we're not there yet. We're still in 3800 BC for now.
Okay. I'm glad you know the date that we're at. So did want to mention, guys, if you don't know who Anu is, he would be described as Uranus or Kalos from the Greek mythologies, also Ani in Egypt. You could refer to him as well as Ahura Mazda in the Zoroastrian mysteries, daddy of the Anunnaki, like the top dog, which our first episode was on. We should probably go back and kind of touch on him again on a future episode. Maybe we could do that. There's not a lot of people maybe that caught when we first started doing these.
Yeah.
So this is the account of Anu's journey to the lands beyond the ocean. So this is the last time he comes down, and this is when Marduk is exiled. And basically it says, Anu about his grandson Marduk inquired, I must see him again. To the leaders, Anu said, whether by Dumuzi and Ningishzidda to Nibiru, inviting Marduk's ire I myself have caused. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that he blames himself for the way that Marduk acts? It's on the 12th tablet.
I think it means like Marduk's problems, Marduk's troubles.
So he kind of does blame himself for the way that Marduk acts. So did Anu wonder to reconsider the punishment of Marduk? He wished. When to the lands beyond the oceans you journey. So yes, we have confirmed that as the Americas. The land where he roams, in those parts of the earth it is. So did Enlil say to Anu. Before for the distant lands the royal couple went, the Eden and its lands Anu and Antu surveyed. Eridu and Nibiruki they visited, where the cities of the first region were planned they saw. Embarrassed was Enki to share with all the divine formulas to Anu he promised. You kind of see a couple of them feeling bad for exiling exiling Marduk. Whatever destiny for the earth and the earthlings intended, let it so be. If man, not Anunnaki, to inherit the earth is destined, let us destiny help. Give mankind knowledge up to a measure secrets of heaven and earth, teach them. Laws of justice and righteousness teach them, then depart and leave. And now it says, when Enki of the decisions about the four regions to Marduk told, and this is because they gave all these regions to other people, right? And it says Marduk's fury knew no bounds. Why will Inanna, a cause of Dumuzi's death, her own region get? Wow. So is Marduk blaming other people for the death of his younger brother? I think this is where Marduk decides that he is going to take reign. And they're saying to Marduk, the decisions have been made. They cannot be altered.
Yeah. So in this scenario, Anu goes on a tour of the earth and actually goes to see Nippur. Let's start from the top. He first confides with Enki and Enlil. Enki explains that Eridu was a masterpiece for so long because he had possession of the ME formulas. And then Anu asked him to share them, but also understood the right to keep them exclusive. So Enki said he would keep them safe for the time being. And then Anu goes to Nippur. He's shown the tablets of destiny. He goes to Lagash, Kish, and then to South America, where Ninurta shows him the Golden Land and the development of bronze and golden nuggets that they are extracting from the earth.
So during all this time, they're still mining gold?
Yes. And this is close. This is probably 3800 BC. So South America.
Okay, so that's almost a shar away from the coming of the Messiah. That you
Exactly.
Okay. This is Namshub, I believe. I thought it may have been one of those fish hats that he was wearing, but I don't know what that could be.
Yeah, it does look more like kind of looks like a fish bowl. You have to look at it from the side. It's amphibious.
It is amphibious, which you see that whole side of that pantheon, starting with Enki.
So yeah, those mining operations at the time, it was called Lake Anak, but there's no hardcore believable translation to where that could be today. So it's potentially northern Mexico where there's a Lake Anahuac, or it could have been Lake Titicaca down in between Peru and Bolivia.
Interesting. I'm just now realizing that Marduk did go to the Americas. I haven't seen this image before. I just found this. I thought that was kind of interesting. But you do see he has the same beard, and then we've talked about their watches before, and I'm sure, is he holding his bag maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we see this a lot. We've talked about the bag basically being symbolic maybe for the manna of heaven or the gold, whichever way you want to interpret it.
And they're both related, right? The mana or the ormus is processed white monoatomic gold. So that's why Marduk's earthling wife Sarpanit was able to live so long. She lived about 21 shars. She lived 76,000 years. So
Marduk's wife?
Yes.
Wow. So she did come from that divine DNA from Enoch, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now, do you think her life was prolonged by the intake of the ormus? How you describe it?
I do.
That's insane, dude. That really holds true to today with these celebrities, right? We've heard of their partaking of drinking the ormus as well. That's been interpreted as a few things, but gold makes sense, and it's very alchemical as well, right?
Right.
An alchemical transformation, transforming your DNA as well, I guess, causing you to live longer. However, her being born on Earth limited her lifespan in a way.
She was already already born into the whole 365-day Earth cycle, which was one component that reduced Earthling lifespans over time, but had to be a combination of the partial royal blood and the Ormus.
Okay, so this is basically at a point on Earth where they start to appoint these different leaders in these different regions. They're not really ruling over it anymore. They have people under them ruling.
Priest kings.
Priest kings, right? The priest kings of Ra, which we've talked about, related to the Rothschilds, the shield of Ra, Ra's shield. We talked about that earlier on. And we may be repeating some stuff that we've talked about in past episodes, but this is kind of summing up the end of Marduk's story, I'd say. I mean, well, you have, I guess his story wouldn't really end. You have his worship up until present day, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So what leads to his reign on Earth?
At this point,
after his exile, and then I think pardoning him once more.
So the timing works out where Marduk and Nabu fly to where Anu is and tell him about the death of his wife. He also expresses concerns about, of course, the marginalization of his power by Enlil, etc. He's been complaining about that for dozens and dozens of shars. But Anu grants Marduk a city-sized amount of land in Sumer that would eventually, it was reserved to be Anu's city, and then over time it would become the New Babylon. And I say New Babylon because I think the first Babylon was in Egypt, and I learned that several months ago. So this is almost Babylon 2.0.
And this is in the 12th tablet. So this is towards the end of this timeline in which the book talks about. So they're still in Egypt at this time too, because it's kind of talking about different places. It's almost as if they're flying or something.
Oh, they definitely are, especially if they're going over oceans. Now, the physics and science of it is up for debate, but probably some sort of anti-gravitic propulsion craft with some comfortable seats and viewing windows.
So we get to this point where his whole family is against him, and rightly so. And so now Enlil is given a prophecy of Marduk's supremacy. Now, I think me and you both know that he gains this supremacy by using what you would call nuclear weapons, or I forgot what they call them in the first couple tablets. The same weapons that Alelu came to Earth with.
They called
so it's crazy that
the weapons of terror.
The weapons of terror, which it mentions the evil wind that they produce, which directly relates to nukes, right?
Yes.
So it's funny how the story begins with Alelu stealing these weapons and going to Earth, and now basically the end of the story, they're being used. From the bull to the ram, Galzu, his pointing shifted. 3 times the pointing he repeated. Then in the dream vision, Galzu spoke up and to Enlil thus said, "The righteous time of benevolence and peace by evil doing and bloodshed will be followed." In 3 celestial portions, the ram of Marduk, the bull of Enlil will replace. So was this just astronomy that they were using, the signs of heaven, to appoint who had kingship at the time? Because I actually did talk about that on a recent episode of Nephilim Death Squad.
Indeed. 100%.
And he says, "A calamity as has never occurred before, by fate decreed, will happen." And it says, as at the time of the great flood, a righteous and worthy man must be chosen. By him and his seed will civilize mankind as by the creator of all intended to be preserved. Who is he talking about? Is he talking about Jesus?
Possibly, but maybe a little early for that. Maybe a shar too early. Can you read that last sentence again?
I just don't know who he would be talking about. Let's see. In 3 celestial portions, the ram of Marduk, the bull of Enlil, will replace one who himself, as supreme God, has declared supremacy on earth, will seize a calamity as has never before occurred by fate decreed will happen. As at the time of the deluge, a righteous and worthy man must be chosen. By him and his seed will civilize mankind, as by the creator of all intended be preserved. And it describes Galzu as the divine emissary.
It could have a double meaning. It could have a meaning where it's this ruler, the first godlike or Anunnaki ruler after the great calamity, will help rebuild mankind. But that really makes me think of Jesus.
That's what I was saying, but you said it's a little too early, and I kind of get confused sometimes.
I mean, who's to say Galzu wasn't prophesizing things that are coming one shar later?
And so then Enlil basically recognized, he says, what Galzu has foretold indeed is happening. Because they know that they're about to go to war with Marduk. And he's always kind of craved supremacy. He's always wanted to be, he's always wanted kingship. And so now, do you think Marduk knows that his kingship is coming?
He's hopeful. He's optimistic. He's gunning for it. Whether he knows for sure or not, I mean, he just got trapped in the pyramid with missiles being shot at him. He's probably unsure that he'll ever be completely free again. He's kind of always a target.
Always, it seems.
Yeah.
And this is why I've talked about him. If he has had supremacy for the last 2,000 years, however long, I don't know. It kind of makes sense. It makes a lot more sense than anyone else. And there's someone who I heard talk about how, yes, like Marduk's reign just came to an end, right?
Yeah.
And that would make sense at the beginning of the 2000s. And what happens in 2001? We have 9/11. We have the beginning of a lot of things that are coming to fruition right now. A lot of things being brought to the light, correct? So it's like the end of the age of Marduk ushers in this new age of some other deity, maybe even a mixture of these different deities. What do you think about that?
I agree. A lot changed on this visit with Anu. They also decided to start going by Earth years now. They're done with shars. They're going to start counting by 365 days equals 1 year. And this is really kind of the birth of the Sumerian culture, like the oldest intelligent civilization that we have hard artifactual evidence of their writings. This is the birth of it, 3800 BC, arguably.
And is this where all these other cultures started to adapt these stories?
Which cultures are you speaking of?
Well, you
like
you
the
have
ones that followed.
Yeah, you have you see these same stories.
Akkadian, Assyrian, Babylonian.
You have all these same stories in all these different cultures, and me and you have come to the conclusion that they are talking about these same deities.
Indeed, brother.
Let's see. I want to bring this up. because I keep finding more and more that just confirms the worship of Bel Marduk. And into today, to be honest with you. And I do know you have to get out of here soon.
Yeah, brother.
The narrative of Bel. So this is Bel and the dragon. Some Bibles use the more traditional identification of this king as being evil Merodach or Amel Marduk. So the story of Bel and the dragon, which is an apocryphon, I immediately thought of the story of Marduk and Tiamat. The identification is supported by the Scriptural Research Institute in their book, Septuagint Daniel, where they cited similarities between Amel Marduk's reign and the account, namely that Amel Marduk was the only king of Babylon to have seen religious riots during his reign. Is this? Oh, man. And so basically, this was supposed to be in the book of Daniel. Have you read this apocryphon before?
The book of Daniel, I don't think so.
Well, I don't think the book of Daniel is the apocryphon. I think this was taken out of the book of Daniel. Which is curious to me to like. I start to think like, I don't know, did they not want these stories? Did they not want people to find these similarities that you can by reading these other stories? Because it says in a form known to the Midrash straw. So I don't know, man. This would actually be something to dive into on another episode by itself. Maybe I could find the PDF or something and read it. So coming to the conclusion of Marduk, because we ended the last episode towards the end of this story, right? We talked about where this brought us to, all the things leading up to his exile, and then to him basically what cities did he bomb?
Well, we were actually researching that to figure out geographically where they would be today, but it's some sort of, it was like technically the 5 cities that got bombed, but that was more by Ninurta and Nergal. We'll cliffhang that and have something to pick up on.
Okay, well, I'm going to finish up talking about some stuff.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we can do something this next week. If you want to go ahead and put your plugs in.
Yeah, hit me up, Adrian West HQ. That's the best place to find me for now. By the time we have another episode, there should be some more content on the Pantheon Instagram. But for now, just AdrianWestHQ.com, Adrian West HQ on IG, Pantheon 1, The Golden Veins on Amazon. Let's rock.
All right, Adrian. Well, I appreciate you coming and hanging out. Even though we couldn't do too long of an episode, we will make up for it on the next one.
Yes, sir. Peace and love to all the audience and supporters.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you later.
Peace.
Bye, bro. All right, guys. It says the evil wind destroys a lot of these other cities that the other Anunnaki inhabit. And basically, they submit to him. And you see this because each one of them refers to themselves as the Marduk of agriculture, the Marduk of the sky, the Marduk of the underworld in cases of Nergal. Yeah, because that is the and we'll actually get into an episode on him as well. So let me go back to this real fast so we can finish up. Temple of Bel in Palmyra. We've talked about that. Syria was dedicated to this god. Now, we've also talked about Syria being where Mount Hermon is, Lebanon, Syria, along that border, where they fell, and the temple was destroyed by ISIS. And when you look at ISIS and you look at the Muslim religion, you see that it is the worship of the god Nanar Sin, the moon god. And so it would make sense for them to destroy these other temples, these temples of Bel. This stuff is really fascinating, and you can look further into Marduk. I don't suggest it for everybody, but you could read the Necronomicon. It basically talks about Marduk, it being attributed to him, all this worship. Well, it says at the beginning of that book that their master is Enki. A god of Babylon, Marduk, of justice, compassion, healing, regeneration, magic, and fairness. And I believe we talked about on Nephilim Death Squad how he could be related to the storm god. Many other deities were also related to the storm god. He denied his claim to throne and title of prince on Nibiru and chose to be the adversary. This guy basically chose his own path against his father's wishes. And we talked about that on one episode where him and Enki go to the moon and he basically tells them, no more this. I'm coming to Earth. I'm choosing a wife of my own, and there's nothing you or anyone else can do about it. And of course, him being the leader of the Ajiji, he has followers, right? He had a lot of people that followed. And I know when you look up the story of the fallen, it talks about how Semyaza was basically the head of these fallen angels. It kind of obfuscates the fact that it was Marduk. And I think they try to relate Semyaza to Azazel, but that's not the case at all. And you really don't see any more of Semyaza. As like you go further into this story, you kind of last hear about him in Egypt. He was the tutelary angel in Egypt, right? You have to look at that as being fallen as well. Coming to the conclusion that since Marduk was the last one in this story to get kingship, after all these years, he finally gets kingship. When you look at what kind of person he was, what kind of quote unquote God he was, he didn't do too much good. That's why everyone was always raging against him. They imprisoned him within the pyramid, then they exiled him, in which he loses, all his sons besides Nabu. He loses his wife. And this happens over a very long period of time. We've described that Ashar, 1 year on Nibiru is 3,600 years on Earth. So, and it really, when I talk about the Babylonian Talmud worship, it goes right into the worship of Bel, the priest of Bel. Same thing with the priest of Ra, what we had just mentioned, also mentioned in a prior episode as well. So this was just a coming to a close on Marduk for now. I had mentioned who he was worshipped as in all these other cultures. We had gone through, in prior episodes, these main stories that you find in these other texts. And so we haven't done one of these in a while, so I kind of just wanted to finish up on this deity. It's time to start on new deities. Anyway, guys, don't know what I got coming next. I should be doing a couple things here in the next few weeks. February 2nd, I am having an all-day stream and inviting a bunch of people on. Got Half a Tower Gang coming on, Nephilim Death Squad, The Reality Czars, Brad Lale, John Lee Chalbeck, Adrian will come through. and some other people as well. Yeah, okay. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get out of here. If y'all aren't yet, you should be subscribed to the Patreon, patreon.com/greypilledpodcast. We will be doing more of these. We have a lot more lined up in research form as well. This was just a conclusion on Marduk, just to finish up talking about him. So we didn't really talk about too much new information on this episode. Go and follow me on social media. Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, Greypilled Pod on Twitter, Greypilled_podcast on Instagram. Go and follow Adrian. And you can go buy his book again at Amazon.com. It's Pantheon 1, The Golden Veins. A lot of interesting stuff in there. Some stuff that a lot of people may not agree with, but it is different, right? And that has, as I've said before, many ways to interpret these things. So I think there may be some stuff that y'all do agree with, and that you can relate to. Like I said, you can relate a lot of these stories to each other, especially with that bell and the dragon. That actually, I should have talked about that a little more. Maybe I could do an Apocryphon episode and we could bring that back up. So, yeah, guys, I will see y'all later. Stay grateful to everybody.
American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. Seek out all your favorite conspiracies. All the lands that know how to stick the sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies. All of these and more on a sticker sheet.
Explore the unique with Paranoid American sticker sheets. Unearth tales of cryptids, cults, and mysteries through each sticker. These won't last long. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
And all American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies. All the land and more on a sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret society. All of these and more on a sticker sheet.
What the heck are you waiting for? Discover the extraordinary with Paranoid American sticker sheets. From cryptids in the night to cults out of sight, each sticker is a unique find. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.